Imagine driving into a city built for 1 million people, only to find the streets completely empty. The traffic lights still work, the fountains still flow, the skyscrapers stand tall against the skyline. Apartment buildings stretch for miles. Shopping malls wait for customers. Schools are ready for students, yet almost no one is there. It sounds like the setting of a post-apocalyptic movie, but it's real, and it's one of the strangest cities ever built. Welcome to Hidden Earth, where we uncover the world's forgotten places, incredible mysteries, and true stories that are stranger than fiction. Today, we're traveling to northern China to answer a fascinating question. How do you build an entire modern city and forget to fill it with people? Our story begins in the early 2000s. China's economy was booming. Cities were expanding at an incredible pace. Millions of people were moving from rural villages into urban centers every year. The country needed more housing, more roads, more businesses, more everything. At the same time, one region of northern China was becoming incredibly wealthy: Inner Mongolia. Beneath its vast grasslands lay enormous reserves of coal, natural gas, and rare earth minerals. Mining generated billions of dollars. Local governments suddenly found themselves with more money than they had ever imagined. Officials decided to invest in the future. Instead of slowly expanding the existing city of Ordos, they planned something much bigger, an entirely new district. It would be called Kangbashi. The vision was ambitious. Wide boulevards, beautiful parks, modern museums, massive public squares, luxury apartments, office towers, universities, sports arenas, everything a world-class city could need. The plan was designed to accommodate nearly 1 million residents. Construction moved at an astonishing pace. Entire neighborhoods appeared almost overnight. Tower cranes filled the skyline. Roads stretched across land that had been mostly empty only a few years earlier. Architects designed futuristic buildings unlike anything else in the region. One of the most famous was the Ordos Museum, a gleaming metallic structure that looked more like a spaceship than a museum. By the end of the decade, much of the city was complete. The infrastructure was ready. The apartments were finished. The lights turned on. There was just one problem. Hardly anyone came. Visitors who arrived expected to find crowded sidewalks and busy intersections. Instead, they found silence. Miles of empty roads. Thousands upon thousands of vacant apartments. Shopping centers with almost no customers. Tower after tower standing empty. Journalists began calling it the largest ghost city on Earth. Photographs of deserted streets spread across the internet. Television crews filmed empty plazas that looked as though the people had disappeared overnight. To much of the world, Kangbashi became a symbol of waste, a city nobody wanted. But was that really the whole story? Or was something much more complicated happening beneath the surface? For years, the world mocked Kangbashi. News outlets described it as a monument to overconfidence, a city built for people who never arrived. Drone footage of empty streets spread across television and social media, reinforcing the image of a modern ghost town. But there was one problem with that story. It wasn't entirely true. Kangbashi had never been intended to fill overnight. Chinese planners viewed the district as a long-term investment. Instead of expanding little by little, they built the infrastructure first, expecting people to move in over decades rather than years. That approach looks strange to much of the world. In many countries, neighborhoods grow gradually. Roads are added as demand increases. Schools are built when they're needed. Kangbashi flipped that idea completely. The city was built first. The residents would come later. Still, the early years were undeniably difficult. Many apartments remained empty. Businesses struggled to attract customers. Property prices fluctuated. Critics questioned whether billions of dollars had been wasted. Then, something unexpected happened. People slowly began moving in. Families purchased homes. Schools filled with students. Government offices relocated. Businesses opened their doors. Each year, the population grew. Not overnight, but steadily. Today, Kangbashi is no longer the empty city that dominated headlines around the world. Hundreds of thousands of people now call it home. Children play in its parks. Traffic fills many of its roads. Restaurants serve busy lunch crowds. The museums welcome visitors. While parts of the district still have room to grow, the city has evolved far beyond the ghost city image that first made it famous. So why did the early photos look so empty? Timing. Most journalists visited during the city's earliest years, before large numbers of residents had moved in. Those images became frozen in time, even as the city continued changing. It's a reminder that first impressions don't always tell the whole story. Kangbashi also raises a fascinating question. Is it better to build for today's needs or tomorrow's? Constructing roads, utilities, schools, and public transportation after a city becomes crowded is expensive and disruptive. Building everything in advance is risky, but it can also prepare for future growth. Different countries answer that question in different ways. Kangbashi became one of the world's largest experiments in long-term urban planning. Whether you see it as visionary or overly ambitious depends on your perspective. Today, satellites show a city that continues to expand. The streets that once appeared abandoned are increasingly alive. The skyline that became a symbol of excess has become home to a growing community. Perhaps the biggest lesson isn't that Kangbashi was a failure. It's that the internet often captures a single moment and treats it as the entire story. Sometimes the truth takes years to unfold. And sometimes the world's most famous ghost city isn't really a ghost city at all. Thanks for joining us on another journey across Hidden Earth. If this story fascinated you, there are countless more waiting to be uncovered. Subscribe for more documentary-style stories from around the world and continue your journey by watching the next episode on your screen. Until next time, keep exploring.